Hey, welcome back to my channel. Yeah, this is my first video. This is going to be a kind of a series one, so we'll start off by talking about these beauties. Hey, so I'm going to do, I suppose it's going to be a series because I've broke it down into genre categories of each read. So today I'm going to start with my favourite genre, which is horror and thriller / thriller. I have picked 7 books from my bookshelf of the books I've read in the last year or so that I want to recommend to you. I'll tell you a bit about them. I won't say too much in case you think, oh yeah, that sounds good from the little bit of info she's given me. So yeah, the first one I'm going to tell you about, recommend, is The Night She Disappeared by Lisa Jewell. Now, I've started reading Lisa Jewell this year and I really do like her books. She keeps you gripped from the beginning to the end. This one is set in summer 2017, where a teenage mum, Tallulah, she goes out on a date with the boyfriend and the baby's dad. She leaves her son at home with her mum, and then at 4:30 in early hours of the morning, her mum awakens and discovers that Tallulah's not home. Her friends tell her that Tallulah was last seen heading to a pool party at a house in the woods nearby called Dark Place. Unfortunately, Tallulah and her boyfriend, they'd never return. Fast forward a year later, Sophie moves into the village. Is it a village or a town? And she's walking in the woods behind the school where her boyfriend is starting work as the head teacher, I think. Sophie sees a sign nailed to a fence, a sign that says that dig here with a big arrow. Just like that one. And she does dig, and she basically opens the mystery of to where Tallulah and her boyfriend was. And Tallulah, she gets in contact with her mum, and basically together they work to solve the case. And yeah, there's a surprising twist at the end. It's a good twist. It has a kind of a happy ending, but not a happy ending. But yeah, it's a thriller of what happened to Tallulah, and you do find out it's not a book that leaves you hanging thinking, well, it's ended, what happened there? So yeah, if you like a thriller and a bit of mystery and a bit of like problem solving, yeah, The Night She Disappeared, that one's for you. The next one is, let's go for this thriller, The Crucifix by Chris Carter. Now, I was recommended this by a friend of a friend, told me to read Chris Carter. This is the first one I have read by him. I've got 2 more on my shelf which I haven't read yet, but they sound equally as good. This one is about, it follows Detective Robert Hunter. He's a homicide specialist section for the police department in Los Angeles. There's a nightmare of a case where the victim suffers a terrible death, and on the nape of her neck is a strange double cross, the signature of a psychopath killer known as the Crucifix Killer. But hang on, the Crucifix Killer was executed 2 years ago because he was caught. Also, they thought, no, is there a copycat killer, or did they get the wrong person, or was someone set up? You know, it follows Robert Hunter. A few more people do die and have the double cross on their neck, I found, and it is just a bit of a, I suppose, a crime thriller, whodunit sort of thing. By page 30, I'd worked out who it was, so I was really pleased with myself. But yeah, it's another book I flew through. Another one that's kept me on edge from beginning to end, and I do highly recommend Chris Carter. And as soon as I've read the other 2, I'll let you know how those go. But yeah, those 2 are thriller, crime solving, whodunit, bit of blood and gore. Chris Carter is very graphical when it comes to bodies, which is great, is the best bit. But yeah, the next one is my most favourite book by Stephen King. Stephen King is another, probably my top favourite author now. I've read so many in the last couple of years. Is Pet Sematary. Now, I did pick this up when I was about 15 in the library because it had a picture of a cat on, and I love cats. But I read it properly again last year. But for those who you don't know, because it is quite a popular book, the films are out, you've probably seen the films but never read the book, but I do recommend reading the book. It follows Lewis Creed, who's a doctor who moves with his wife and 2 children. Unfortunately, one of his children gets killed by a lorry. I really don't want to say too much because it sort of gives all the plots away, but yeah, and his neighbour across the road, he shows him the pet cemetery, and from when I think it's the cat that dies first. Church, the cat actually dies first. Yeah, it's Church who dies first, the cat. His neighbour takes him to the pet cemetery. They bury him here, you know, I buried my dog here a long time ago. And then from the moment that that cat was buried in the pet cemetery, things were never the same again. And there is a saying in it, sometimes you're better off being dead. I love that saying. But yeah, then he thinks with the young boy Gage, when he dies, the same thing could happen, you know, bury him. But no, and things start to turn a bit bloody. So if you like horror and I suppose zombified things, Pet Sematary is for you. But this is my all-time favourite Stephen King book. I've read it twice now, so yeah, it will be another reread for me in a few years. The next one is my second favourite Stephen King book. It's a bit of a big one, but I read this at Easter, and I actually, for a thick book, I read it really quickly. It's Christine by Stephen King. Again, this is a good one. It's about Arnie and his friend Dennis. Arnie, they're on the way home from work one night, and Arnie sees this car for sale, Christine. He really wants it, so he buys it. Needs a lot of work. He needs a lot of work on it, so he spends more time working on it, spending time in the car. Arnie then gets a girlfriend, but then he's not very nice to her because he'd rather spend time with his car and his money on his car and does it up. But the car has a powerful hold over Arnie, and people start to die, especially ones that upset Arnie or try and get in the way of the relationship between Arnie and Christine. So yeah, as Cody had called it, your book with the killer car on. So yeah, it is about a car that kills, and yeah, I actually thoroughly enjoyed it, and I read it so quickly despite the size of it, because sometimes big books like that can be a bit daunting, but no, Stephen King made it very enjoyable, and it's definitely one I would love to reread again in the future. But yeah, Dennis and Arnie's ex-girlfriend, they kind of save the day and help get rid of the car. But also that's in a very not a pretty way. It's not easy to get rid of a car that is possessed by a ghost. The next one, I promise you this is the last one in this video, but it is another one by Stephen King, and that's 1922. This is my third favourite, so I thought I'll go put my top 3 in. Come on. Winifred James is writing his confession in 1922. Winifred owns 80 acres of farmland in Nebraska. He lives with his wife and his son, but his wife wants to put the farm up for sale, but if she sells her part of the farm, he's then got to sell his, and he doesn't want to. So he persuades his son that they might not have to move to the city, but there is a daring plan that he wants to do, but he needs his son's help. So yeah, they do, and there's plenty of rats in this one. But yeah, for a Stephen King one, it's quite short, so if you're wanting to start off in horror, I would recommend this one because it's quite short, and then you'll get used to his writing. But yeah, the father and son brutally murder her, and then they go a bit mad, and then the rats come, which don't help with the madness. But yeah, it's another one I would recommend. If you think, oh, I want to get into Stephen King, yeah, read this one first, because it's only about 154 pages. So it's quite a short one for Stephen King. So I would go for that one if you like murder, people going mad, and if you like rats. But the rats kind of sounded sort of quite cute to me. Right, the next one, there's two more. The next one is Clown in a Cornfield by Adam Cesar, if I say that right. This is again another horror book. If you like high school teenagers partying and being up to no good and clowns, then this one is for you. Quinn and her dad move, her mum dies, so they move into another town. Quinn and her mum in a tiny town, and they have a weird clown for a mascot. They're looking for a fresh start, but ever since the town's only factory shut down, Kettle Springs is cracked in half with the kids to blame and the adults. So it's a big divide from young and old, two different generations. A party is thrown in the middle of a cornfield, and then basically it's just a bloodbath, a little bit, and fires. There's not just one clown, there's quite a few clowns trying to kill all the younger youths because they've had enough. They play too many pranks. A sibling of one of the children got killed the summer before, and basically the adults have had enough, and it's them who are going around dressing up as clowns, killing all the children, well, the teenagers. I was in two minds whether I was going to like this or not, but I actually did really love it. But yeah, there are some survivors and then there's some no survivors. But I didn't realise that this Clown in the Cornfield 2, Friendo Lives, is coming out on the 1st of September this year, so I will be getting that sequel to it. But yeah, if you're into high school killers, clowns, this one I'd recommend. And my final one on my list for this video is My Best Friend's Exorcism. Again, I read this a couple of years ago. Again, this is about high school children, where I keep saying children. They're not children, they're teens, older teens. Abby and Gretchen, they've been best friends since 4th grade, and they go skinny dipping one night, and it ends in disaster. Who is it? I think it's Gretchen. Who, yes, she begins to act different after this because she wanders off into the woods, and she starts to act different, and we find out that she's actually possessed. And she starts to hang around with the popular kids, teens at school, and things start being weird. She's trying to kill them off. Like for one scene, one of them wanted to be thin, as you know, some girls do. And there's a scene in it with worms and this girl, and this is what Gretchen's been able to do. And I think Abby tries to help her. She knows this is not a friend, something's not quite right. She needs to save her. So yeah, if you like weird stuff, disgusting stuff, possessed people, and again high school teens, this book's for you. It's basically set in the 80s, so it does have a Stranger Things vibe, which is what I like about it. And I love the cover. It's very VHS. It supposed to look like a VHS case. For those who don't know what a VHS is, back in the day of the 80s, we had tapes like that instead of a DVD player. You put it in and you had to rewind it as well. But yeah, these are my horror and thriller books that I recommend. There are a few there. They're easy to read. easy to get into, keep your grip. So hopefully if you're in a reading slump or you want to try something different or you want to get into horror thriller, I do recommend that you start have a go at these, because I thoroughly enjoyed them and I hope you do too. Leave me a comment below if you read any of these books, or it's made you want to read one or two, then let me know. Or if there's any books that you think, oh, maybe you would like that, leave the comment. I'm always open to recommendations in my comments below. So yeah, that is my recommendations for horror and thriller. That's my go-to genre at the moment, and I will be back with another video, probably romance, which will be a very short one because I'm not much of a romance reader. But yeah, I'll see you again in my next video soon. Bye.